unemployment. He also cautioned that the protection of the country's democratic reputation should not be marred by threats of coup d'etat.
Like all major construction projects, it is evident that the initial schedule we gave for the completion of Agenda 111 was overly ambitious. Identifying suitable sites around the country, for example, has turned out to be even more problematic than had been anticipated. I am now able to say that a great deal of the preparatory work has now been completed, and work has started at 87 of the 111 sites. I've been assured that preliminary work on the remaining 24 sites is ongoing. We have every intention of seeing this project through to its successful end, which will enable me to commission all 111 hospitals before I leave office on 7th January 2025. The computerized school placement system is currently ongoing, and the latest batch of JHS students will soon embark on their free SHS and free TVET education. The TVET institutions are being upgraded and equipped to enable them train the increased numbers of children that we want to be attracted to that sector to meet the modern needs of our economy. Within the next few months, the construction of 5 technical colleges will begin in various parts of the country. 3 technical institutes will be upgraded to tertiary status. The initial phase for the construction of 9 TVET campuses will commence next month in Bosumtwe, Achimewisa, Boakon, Kenyase, Patuda, Dambai, Larabanga, Guabuliga, and Tolibri. Since June 2021, Toyota and Suzuki brands of vehicles are being produced here, commencing with the production of Hilux, pickup, and Swift models. VW, Volkswagen, and Sinotruk, which commenced commercial operations in 2020, have continued to assemble their brands of vehicles and are enjoying significant local patronage. In addition, a new state-of-the-art assembly plant with capacity to assemble 5,000 new vehicles per annum has been established by Nissan in Tema, which is currently producing Nissan and Peugeot brands of vehicles for the Ghanaian and West African markets. Our national iconic automobile brand, the Kantanka brand, produced by Kantanka Automobile Company Limited, also stepped up production. Now that the Minister for Finance has announced an embargo on the importation of 4x4 vehicles for official use, I hope the local assembly plants will take full advantage of the opportunity, especially since government is continuing with its policy of giving first priority to locally assembled vehicles in respect of all publicly financed procurement of vehicles. Mr. Speaker, we have proof beyond the education, agriculture, and manufacturing sectors to show that we have been using state revenue to expand infrastructure across other sectors and improve lives. For the first time in our history, we are doing something about the infrastructure needs of the judiciary on a major scale.
Also, the president said processes have begun to establish the National Vaccine Institute in the country. It is a proposed National Vaccine Institute to implement the strategy to enable Ghana to begin the first phase of commercial vaccine production by January 2024. He said a bill will soon be brought to Parliament in this regard.
We had to learn some very hard lessons. And our belief in the need for self-sufficiency was reinforced when vaccine nationalism was played out blatantly by the rich and powerful countries. Mr. Speaker, the Presidential Vaccine Manufacturing Committee, which I set up to respond to this obvious deficiency, has put in place a comprehensive strategy for domestic vaccine production and the establishment of a National Vaccine Institute to implement the strategy, which will enable us to begin the first phase of commercial production in January 2024. A bill will shortly be brought to you in this House for your support and approval for the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute. This pandemic exposed other shortcomings of our country, which have undoubtedly contributed to the anxieties that have befallen the nation. Agenda 111 was born out of this necessity to address some of these shortcomings.
My colleagues Maurice Ogbete and Sani Abdurrahman have just joined from Parliament House, so I will find out from them now how they saw events on the floor of Parliament today. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Abdul, what were the highlights for you today?
Well, really, the address touched on a number of issues regarding the state of the country in terms of agriculture, which is one of the backbone of the Ghanaian economy. We had the president talking about investment in that regard, specifically in the area of irrigation, to ensure that we increase food production in the country. In the last few months, we've had complaints about rising food prices in the country, and that's as a result of the fact that we import hugely outside when it comes to food. So the government, according to the president, is working in that regard to increase food production so that we can deepen food security. In terms of security, also following the threats that we are seeing in the Sahel and the sub-region as well, we had the president talk about investment in security agencies to ensure that their capacity is boosted so that they can combat any sort of threats. We've seen 3 coups d'etats in the last 18 months in the sub-region alone, and that's very worrying. And I like the part where he said, in as much as we've enjoyed relatively peace and calm in the country, we are not in isolation when it comes to the threats confronting the other nations. For me, the area of security and agriculture, looking at the number of Ghanaians in that area has been key for me.
Well, Maurice, the minority says the address does not reflect the true state of the nation. What do you make of this?
Well, you know, that's you know, political controversy. But just still talking about highlights of the address. I mean, moving or in a build-up to the address, expectations were that the president will talk about, I mean, practical measures that he is putting in place to help, you know, kick back the economy or recover the economy. I mean, after admitting that Ghanaians are anxious about, you know, hardship, about worsening economic conditions, you didn't expect him then to come and tell you that inflation is at, you know, 15.7%, that our debt to GDP is at, you know, 83%. He has come to admit that really the economic condition in the country is not the best. And so you didn't expect him to now come and paint, you know, how difficult the picture is. Also because even before this particular address, the finance minister, you know, after that cabinet meeting, had come to address the nation. This is what we want to do. We are cutting public expenditure by 30%, you know, and so a lot has been said about the economy already. Let me also quickly say one of the policies that he spoke about. They are in the process of restructuring our energy sector debt, which is weighing so much on the Ghanaian economy. It forms a chunk of our public sector debt. We're paying about $12 billion annually for excess capacity, energy that we do not use. So, I mean, this comes in for me as good news. We want to restructure that and ensure that we get it off our books. We're also looking at the launch of a new vehicle assembling plant, which he is going to commission tomorrow. Going to manufacture some 5,000, brand new vehicles, Nissan. What that does is that it stabilizes the economy. It produces brand new vehicles which do not emit much, of CO2 into the system. It produces durable vehicles. I was in South Africa not too long ago, and you realize that because they have a lot of assembling plants in that particular country, a lot of the guys are using brand new vehicles, and that takes you a longer period to drive instead of importing.
So in a way, it saves you some cash. Right. Regarding the economy again, Sani, what was the highlight for you?
Well, as my colleague indicated, the finance minister last Thursday gave us or painted a picture of the economy where he gave all the details in terms of the numbers. Inflation at 15.7, policy rate at 17%. You find debts crossing the 80% threshold for economies like ours. So really going into the State of the Nation address, I didn't expect the president to go back and be reiterating the numbers. He generalized by admitting that the economy is not in good shape, but his government is working to resolve the economy. And he also touched on the geopolitical impact on the economy. We've seen Russia's invasion of Ukraine also taking a toll on our economy, really, because we export some of our cocoa products there. We import heavy metals from Russia and Ukraine, and also fertilizer. And just 2 days ago, we had the Chamber of Agribusiness talking about the impacts of the invasion on the importation of fertilizers, because there are some sanctions on Russia, and that is preventing the country from doing that. And so in the area of the economy, we didn't hear much because simply he admitted the economy is not in good shape, and that covers it all. Right.
And then he touched on the 1D, 1F initiative. 165 projects have been completed so far. About 136 of them are at various stages of completion. And I was very much happy about the involvement of the youth in the 1D, 1F initiative. What I, wanted to hear more is how we rope in more of the guys, because this was very much new to me. I didn't know there was an initiative to bring in the youth into the 1D, 1F initiative. You also touched on the youth start. No, the youth start.
For entrepreneurs,
yes,
young entrepreneurs.
It's an initiative I'm looking forward to, where government is going to give grant to tertiary graduates, to start your own business. And then if you had a business already, you could also get some form of a soft loan to inject some capital into your business. That is an initiative I'm expecting to hear or to see, roll off, so that all of us.
And really, because even before you come and mention, the finance minister has tied the youth starts to the e-levy.
To the e-levy.
Some proceeds from the e-levy will be invested in that regard, and the e-levy, as we saw yesterday, has been passed. So that revenue stream has been created, and it's left with the operationalization. And once that is done, I'm sure that's really not going to be a big challenge. Only that I don't want to believe that this will be a big talk without seeing much of action, because in the last decade we've seen several initiatives aimed at creating jobs and tackling unemployment. But the situation still persists, and it appears we haven't achieved much in that regard, and it is time we walk the talk to address this problem.
Actually, one thing I wanted to hear was government promised to set up a rent authority, where if you wanted to go and rent, you'll be given some money. The money is paid to your landlord, and then you pay monthly. So the government gives the money to the landlord, and then you pay, monthly. That brings some relief to public sector workers.
At the outset,
I was expecting to hear when that is going to start.
I disagreed with that policy.
Why so?
I didn't support that policy from the start, because looking at the possible impacts on the public purse already, we are told we are not able to pay money.
This money you are going to pay. It's not free money.
If you look at the recovery rate of, let's say, for example, Maslock, it tells you how the attitude of the Ghanaian when he or she contracts loan from the States. Payment is really not there. And even with the scheme that the Ghana Enterprise Agency ruled out to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on SMEs. The last time I checked, I heard they've paid like 1 million or 2 million cedis out of the nearly 750 million.
I'm in support of this initiative because it is tied to your
I understand where you're coming from.
Well, e-levy also got a mention. Apart from the little amount that will go into the U-Start, what else did he say about e-levy?
Well, the president said he was excited that the House passed the e-levy, and you should have seen the reaction from the side of the minority when he said the House passed.
They're actually in court contesting the passage of the e-levy.
Yes.
And so we'll see what the Supreme Court, the interpretation the Supreme Court is going to give to that particular motion that they have, sent to Parliament. They believe that the majority didn't have the numbers yesterday because they are one member short, which is Honorable Adjo Safo. So they were 136 instead of 137, and so they didn't even form the quorum, to go ahead to pass the e-levy at the second reading. So we'll just be waiting to hear what the Supreme Court is going to say, and then we'll know whether the e-levy has really been passed, and then when we are going to start.
And just if you look at it also on the other side, just by virtue of the fact that we heard and saw the passage of the e-levy yesterday, we saw bonds started to rally on the capital markets. I checked the Bloomberg terminal where I saw how the market was reacting to the announcement that the e-levy has been passed, which tells you that investors are keen on government revenue programs for this year, and that may certainly engender the confidence needed to kickstart the Ghanaian economy. I don't know what you think in that.
I mean, certainly so. But one of the initiatives too was the setup of a senior high school for the creative arts somewhere in Ashanti.
The TVETs, okay.
And then also the TVETs, which for me is the way to go if we want to create more jobs. Let's energize the technical institutes. Let's even give them contract, even whilst they are in school, to manufacture the desks that our pupils will use to do some of the little things that we need.
Of course,
even before they leave the class, they've even gotten a job and they are making some money already.
Especially government being the biggest spender in the economy. We want to give some of these things to them is going to help them to establish.
Well, that's all time will allow us, guys. I'm sure if we are to give you 1 hour, you guys will go on and on and on, and the news will never end. We will cross over to the regions now. My colleague Jones Salima is standing by to give us a reaction from his side of the country. Hello, good afternoon, Jones.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. What has been the reaction?
Okay, so in the first case, I must say that the people I spoke to in the whole municipality of the Volta region were actually not willing to talk on camera. But then when you strike a conversation with them, you have the camera, they spoke as well. Now,
what were they saying?
Yeah, basically there were mixed reactions. Other group of people, were in full praises for the government for the manner in which he has, handled the economy, especially taking from the fact that, we are not in normal times. There have been pandemic and all that. For them, one major thing that really they spoke about was the passage of the e-levy. And the fact that in as much as times are hard, they were wishing that Ghanaians will understand the president on the fact that the country needs money to recover from the effects of the pandemic. Then there was this other group that were totally in they were not actually happy with what the president said. According to them, what the finance minister came to say some few days back, if you could recall, it's nothing new from what the president said. And so for them, they were not enthused all that about
what were they hoping to hear
delivered by the president today.
What were they hoping to hear?
For them, they were hoping to hear, pragmatic steps that is being taken by the government of the day to, alleviate the hardships in the country. But rather, it seems as if, according to them, government is rather worsening the already bad situation, the bad economic situation in the country with the imposition and the passage of the e-levy.
Thank you very much, John Salima. Is there anything more to share with us?
I must say that they were, however, the people I spoke to were, however, in full praise of the performance by the Black Stars yesterday that qualified the country to the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Both sides of the people I spoke to called on Ghanaians and especially GSA and government to ensure that our bad or bitter experiences at the various World Cups is not repeated as the country prepares for the 2022 Qatar World Cup.
Thank you very much, Jones Alima. Jones Alima is our Volta regional correspondent. He just brought us reaction to the President's State of the Nation address a couple of hours ago. We have Mutala Issa on the line too to also bring us a perception of this same address from his side of town. Hello, good afternoon, Mutala.
Good afternoon.
What did the people say when you spoke with them?
So basically, they mentioned that the president could have delved more into how the difficulty facing the economy now and how the nation is working towards coming out of it. We spoke with some farmers who said that they would also love to see the president tell them how the coming farming season could be held. They are concerned that with the happenings in Europe, Russia and Ukraine in particular, there are fears that fertilizer and other inputs for agriculture may be affected. And they wanted to hear more from the president as to how they are making efforts to make local arrangements to make this easy for them. They have also identified fuel price increase in recent times as a major challenge that I think the president did not touch so much about. But they were impressed about the interchange that was commissioned yesterday, and they said this is something that will help enhance business activities in the northern regional capital and also to beautify the place. But on the agri front, employment and fuel, they said they would have loved to hear more from the president.
Thank you very much. Mutala Mutala is our northern regional correspondent from the Bono East. Samuel Ayama is on the phone line now. Hello, good afternoon, Samuel.
Good afternoon, Michelin.
What can you tell us?
Thank you. For the Bono East region, it was just a feeling here or misreaction from the residents here after the President's State of the Nation's address. They said they were not, most of them told me they were not expecting that much because recently the Minister for Finance, Ken Foriata, outlined some of the measures government is trying to take to address some of the challenges that is confronting the people in the country. So what the president said this morning, they were not surprised about some of the things because they are already aware of, or they know that government is aware of the challenges that they are facing in this country. So that is the reason they took some decisions, and the Minister for Finance came out and then spoke to the nation or addressed the nation about it. So for the president, what they were expecting him was to give much more details about the agric area, because for the Bono East region, they have a lot of valleys and they have a lot of areas that they want to develop or make the region have agric. So for now, they are expecting the president to make sure that they continue to reduce prices of fuel and then make sure that some of the things that they do in this country or they create some kind of a conducive environment for businesses to thrive so that they can have their livelihood and have or improve.
Thank you very much, Samuel Ayama. Samuel Ayama bringing us reactions to the President's State of the Nation address from the Bono East. Now, in Upper West, Swala Abdul-Wahab also brings us reactions to the President's State of the Nation address. Hello, good afternoon, Swala.
Good afternoon, Missionary.
Were the expectations of the people you spoke to met?
Famino said no.
Why so?
What they told me is that there are two things that worry them here. And that two things for them is what they describe as high taxes and then high cost of fuel. I spoke to market women who sell fish, those who sell tomato, and those who sell fruits. What they tell me is that when they go to where they pick these items to come and sell, the taxes on them are so high that they are not able to buy the right quantity they want to buy to come and sell. And when they buy with the high taxes and come here, it becomes difficult for them to sell because people are not able to buy. So for them, they were expecting to hear from the president's mouth announcing a reduction in fuel prices. And once they didn't hear this, they expressed disappointment. They also say that the taxes on the goods they buy, the taxes are so high that when they buy the goods and come, it becomes difficult for them to even break even. So what they expect to hear from the president was a reduction of fuel prices and then a reduction of taxes. And once they didn't hear this, they are disappointed. That is what they told me.
Thank you very much, Swala Abdul-Wahab. Swala Abdul-Wahab is our Upper West regional correspondent, and for people from his part of town, their needs were not captured in the address, and so they were disappointed. Now in the Ashanti region, Nicholas Osewusu is on the phone. Hello, good afternoon, Nicholas.
Good afternoon, Pekka.
How did they react to the President's State of the Nation address today?
One prominent issue addressed by the President, in their view, was the construction of roads, and in Kumasi in particular, they say they have seen some work ongoing, especially the asphalt overlay in town, in the internal roads of Kumasi and some other arterial roads. They also say see some other roads that are ongoing in parts of the region. But they are also making claim to the fact that the e-levy, which has just been passed by Parliament, the further education they are expecting the authorities to embark on, so that they better appreciate what actually it is about, what their responsibilities are. So to the extent that somebody was inquiring from us as whether the e-levy is coming to replace the tax they are already paying, or they are going to pay the two at the same time. So that is one of the issues that came out. And then there is another issue which came out was the fact that there's too much hardship in the system, that the price of goods on the market keep on increasing almost on daily basis. And so they are asking government to do something about it to reduce the hardship they are going through. These are some of the major issues that came out when we sample the opinion of people who listen to the president deliver State of the Nation address.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Nicholas Osewusu is our Ashanti regional correspondent, and he also just brought us people's reaction to the President's State of the Nation address this afternoon. Moving on, a Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend Intim Fodjo, says the free SHS has become a game-changer policy that has opened a new chapter for young people whose education would not have gone beyond secondary education due to financial constraints. At a public lecture in honor of President Akufo-Addo, the Deputy Minister said, although some successes have been chalked in improving Ghana's human capital base via the free SHS, there are challenges that needs to be given a second look, including quality and infrastructure.
On 11th February 2017, President Nana Akufo-Addo announced a policy to make senior high school education tuition-free, thus paving the way for Ghanaians whose parents could not afford to pay for their fees to go to school. It's been 5 years since the government rolled out the policy, but there are still hurdles to be cleared. These include lack of infrastructure, teacher shortage, inadequate teaching materials, and delays in the supply of funds. At a public lecture in honor of President Akufo-Addo, director at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, Professor Samuel Bonsu, said he fully endorses the free senior high school policy, describing it as a prudent decision so far taken by the government. On how to achieve workable solutions to ensure its success, the director called for the expansion of infrastructure, suggested the collaboration with the private sector, notably private school owners, who have spaces to lease them out to government for the infrastructure needs.
Could it have been that students who would otherwise attend private secondary schools were now enrolling in the public ones because they no longer had to pay school fees? It would suggest that the private school owners would have plenty of space available. Instead of the government perhaps rushing to build new schools under the stress that it endured over that period, there could have been an alternative. And that alternative would have been going into agreements with the private school owners who had space, leasing these spaces as an immediate measure to absorb the problem or address the problem, ease the accommodation burden that arose.
A Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend Intim Fojo, entreated all Ghanaians to put politics aside and commend government for making the free senior high school a reality. He encouraged the citizenry to come on board to contribute ideas to make it work.
Has free SHS been successful? Yes, it has. But the next question is, has it come without challenges? No, they came with challenges. How did we overcome them? Together. How did we do it? We listened. And so for it to continue succeeding, we must keep listening. And so the government has that position, and the Ministry of Education, we have the position of listening to every idea. We will not discount any idea that comes from any stakeholder, because it is in listening to these that we can continually make this better.
The lecture was on the theme, consolidating the gains of the free senior high school policy, protecting the legacy for future generations.
National AIDS Control Program statistics, about 346,000 people are living with HIV in Ghana. Out of this number, 80% are females. This means currently there are about 276,800 females living with HIV. In an exclusive interview with GBC News' Beatrice Senaju, the program manager at NACP, Dr. Stephen Akufo-Addo, said these figures are alarming and parents, caregivers and guardians must have a plan in place to protect the adolescent girls from HIV and AIDS and related diseases.
HIV and AIDS has claimed many lives in the country. Even though the fear associated with HIV and AIDS has changed with time due to the many preventive interventions, health experts say the disease is still a public health threat and intensive advocacy is needed to reduce the rising figures at all levels. The National AIDS Control Program says majority of the populace are still unaware of their HIV status. From statistics, only 21,600 people are aware of their status. Additional figures also show that 18,982 HIV infections occur in young adults and adolescents from ages 15 to 24. Of the 19,000 new HIV infections recorded in Ghana in 2021, 5,200 occurred in females, a situation both the NACP and the Ghana AIDS Commission say is worrying and must be tackled from the root.
At the last count, when we took children and adolescents, about 5,200 new infections occurred amongst the children. Now, what was very intriguing and very surprising was that majority of them were females. I think it follows the general picture where of the population of people living with HIV, the females are more. Okay, females are more. About 70%, 65. I mean, females are more. So, new infections also, we notice that the females are more, about 5,200. Okay, and you will find a similar trend with respect to those who die.
Health experts say transactional sex, poverty, and the exposure of the female anatomy to contracting various diseases are some of the leading factors of the rising HIV cases among females in the country. In reducing the rising figures to its barest minimum, the National AIDS Control Program and the Ghana AIDS Commission have introduced some measures.
Recently, there's even what we call the Education Plus initiative, which is about advocacy about young ladies staying in school, because it has been realized that when you stay in school, there is a kind of structural benefit in which the number of HIV infections in that group goes down. So they are pushing that agenda with the UN system.
Then we have one intervention with the school health. We call that with the SHEP, School Health Education Program, where continuously we update the curriculum of schools with HIV information so that whilst they are in school, they learn HIV as a normal subject. And by the time they become adults, they have some ammunition to prevent them.
HIV and AIDS advocates are sending an urgent health alert to the general public to ensure females, especially those of school-going age, are protected. They are calling for intensified and routine education on HIV and AIDS in all second cycle schools and universities across the country to stem the spread. Beatrice Sanaju, GBC News, Accra.
The morbidity and mortality rates from non-communicable diseases remain high in the country, especially among the youth. It is for this reason the Director of the Public Health Division of the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Dr. Dalenyo Dovlo, is asking the Ghana Health Service to investigate the determinants of the diseases in the foods consumed. While delivering his address at the Ghana Health Service Senior Managers meeting in Accra, he also emphasized the need to sustain the gains made at curbing COVID-19 despite the ease in restrictions. Zero Fori reports.
250 health managers and agencies in the health sector are reviewing the 2021 performance of the sector and to deliberate on how to effectively strengthen the health system aimed at a universal health coverage, maternal and children under 5 mortalities, high attrition of professional nurses, the high burden of non-communicable diseases, and attaining herd immunity from COVID-19 are some challenges requiring more interventions. The Director for Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Alberta Brichum-Nyako, also enumerated inadequate infrastructure to ensure equity and quality healthcare, weak clinical emergency response, inadequate and erratic cash flow, among others, are some impediments the Ghana Health Service grappled with. Malaria topped the list of top 10 diseases. To curb vaccine hesitancy, the NGOs in health expressed the commitment to deploy their volunteers to support the Ghana Health Service. It also suggested that a trust fund be set up to deal with the health infrastructural deficits. The private medical and dental practitioners pressed for the need to increase domestic resources and reduce out-of-pocket spending. Speaking on behalf of the development partners, the country representative of UNICEF, Ms. Anne-Claire Dufay, warned that Ghana be cautious following the ease in the restriction of COVID-19 safety protocols and urged the Ghana Health Service to have monitoring and evaluation plans in place to prevent the health sector from being overwhelmed. The Director of the Public Health Division at the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Dr. Dalenyo Dovlo, who has over 30 years' experience in health, said Ghana must always stand in readiness for pandemics with a resilient health system.
We don't understand, for example, completely the level of salt that is in the kenke we eat every day. It's unclear what kind of carcinogens are in the fried fish. It's important as we move along to try and determine what are the factors in our nutrition, health, and so on that are impacting our health. Simply providing the sophisticated equipment and so on to handle it is not enough.
The theme for the meeting is comprehensive service delivery in a pandemic, leaving no one behind. Sarah Fori, GBC News, Accra.
You're watching News Hour live on GBC News and News and Governance channel. We'll go for a quick break.
Hello, you're still watching News Hour. This is Business, and my name is Esther Edu Ohumu. President Akufo-Addo, in his State of the Nation address in Parliament, mentioned that the passage of the e-levy would rope in the needed revenue for development. He also mentioned that digitization of the economy, especially at the ports, has led to items generating 16.23 billion cedis last year. The president also spoke of 278 projects currently under the 1D1F, with 58 being owned by youth groups, among others. To speak on this, we have on the line the Chief Executive of GITFIC, Mr. Selassie Akom. Good afternoon, Selassie.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners and viewers.
All right, Selassie, with the passage of the e-levy, do you envisage any positive impact on our revenue generation efforts?
Thank you very much. Yes, of course. The passage of the e-levy would help the country tidy up its fiscal space because we expect somewhere around 900 million to help tidy up the fiscal space. So yes, it will help with revenue generation and to support government programs for the year and the years ahead.
The president also mentioned that the reduction of the human interface at the ports has increased revenue generation, with items generating 16.23 billion cedis last year. What is your view on that?
Well, I mean, last week, I'm sure your viewers would understand the little historical emphasis I laid in my submission with where IQs generated from, all the way from President Rawlings' era, His Excellency President Kufuor's era, His Excellency Atanos Mesu SPP, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and then immediately the MPP won power again in 2016. They sent a very strong signal to the trading community, port operators, that they wanted to industrialize, digitalize the system, especially also focusing on port operation. And so somewhere in September 2016, they had abrogated contracts with West Blue Consulting, who were working in collaboration with GCNet, and then introduced the Unipass. By March 2020, we had the Unipass transmorphosized into IQ, which is Integrated Custom Management System, to make sure that collections at our entry ports were efficiently done, paperless, making doing business in Ghana very easy, and maximize revenue for government development projects. So indeed, the introduction of the IQs had come to complement. Let's not forget, there's one significant thing that this government did with the ICONs. They had gone back to mitigate the IQs with the Ghana Link services. The Ghana Link services existed at the era of President Akufo. During President J.E. Mills' tenure, they had abrogated that and brought GIST in it, and President Mahama had added the West Blue to it, West Blue Consulting Firm to it. But they had gone back to pick the Ghana Link services and then merged it with the activity of IQs, which is a replica of what happens in Korea. So you could be rest assured that revenue generation was going to be maximized going forward. And that is exactly the result we are experiencing as a nation, where shortfalls have been, minimized to the barest minimum. The GRA is reporting targets year-on-year basis. That's the reality.
Okay, Selassie, let's now talk about production. The president has called on local vehicle assembling plants such as Kantanka to step up production on the back of a ban on imported vehicles for state institutions. Can they meet the demand?
Well, there's going to be demand because, as you rightly said, there is an embargo in importing four-wheel drive for official use. The demand is already there because if you would study carefully, the Nizam's assembling plant they've done recently is basically on the brand called Navara. Navara is 4x4. So there is demand not only within Ghana, but within the West African nation. However, Kantanka has over the period shown its ability to be able to manufacture to meet the demands in Ghana and even export across within the sub-region. And so, and the government too had created an enabling environment to support such moves. And so we at the Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference are of the opinion that Kantanka is able, because they've partnered with Chinese counterparts in their production. And so they are able to speed up, meet the demand that this embargo would bring to the country, meet up the West African demand too.
Selassie, he also mentioned a new affordable housing scheme with the development of 2 sites and 12,000 housing units. But my question is, how affordable are these houses?
Well, with issues with affordable houses in this Ghana, I'm sure the minister in charge of housing himself is aware. And I've heard him say that a number of times, that affordability is actually not affordable. You look at the cost that each unit is selling for, and you want to advise yourself as an individual, interest. You use that money, go get your private land and build, you will realize that you are able to afford something better than what is up there. However, we've heard His Excellency also talk about the fact that building materials keep soaring, and I'll advise the construction sector to look at better ways in churning out affordable housing to meet demand. And so one way or the other, we are of the view that government has put in or is putting in stringent measures to really make these houses affordable. If you listen to what the sector minister has been saying in the last 2 months, you will notice that enough have been put in line to make sure that these houses become affordable indeed.
All right. That'll be all for now, Selassie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was Selassie Akom speaking to us on the State of the Nation address as read by the President, Nana Akufo-Addo. We'll take the interbank and commodity figures for the day.